everybody. In two previous videos, I talked to you about seeds recently. The first one, I talked to you about the difference between heirloom, hybrid, and organic seeds. And in the second one, I talked more specifically about GMO seeds. Well, in this video, I'm going to give you my 2 cents. The first 2 videos, I tried to be as impartial as I could. I wasn't, in my opinion, very successful at it, but in this video, I'm going to no holds barred tell you how I really feel about these matters. I think that there is no need for GMOs. And because I don't think there's any need for GMOs, I would extend that to say that there's no place for GMOs. I have no scientific data to say that they are dangerous, that they are going to endanger the world or anything like that. Instead, my line of thinking is to address why are we doing something, and is that really the correct answer to the problem we thought we identified. The best I understand GMOs is they exist under the idea that the world is hungry, and the only way we can possibly produce the amount of food that we need is to produce it on broad scale acreages of monocrops, and the only way that we can do that is by using chemicals, and the only way we can do that is if the plants that we grow are resistant to the chemicals we're using to kill everything else. I think that is utter nonsense. I think it's a complete misunderstanding of how nature works and the right way to produce food. Folks, the world has no need to be hungry. We produce enough food to feed the world, as it were. We can produce food for people who would be considered poor or underprivileged or malnutrition. We can give them the tools that they need to grow those foods in the locations where they live, rather than trying to drop ship them humongous containers of grain and solve problems. We instead are creating problems by using things like GMOs. Instead, what we need to do is recognize the root problems. The root problems was the mindset changing to the idea that we had to monocrop. Monocropping, in turn, provides buffets for all of the diseases and pests that want to be on those crops. But we can actually grow more food and be more productive on smaller acreage for individual communities and be able to produce food without chemicals by harmonizing with nature and, from my perspective, using permaculture techniques. So I'm not here to grandstand and tell you about the horrible things and to tell you to go march against Monsanto and all these other things. I'm telling you that if, as a society, we make a decision that I don't want my food produced in that manner, then if we don't buy it, if we don't seek after it, then nobody's going to produce it. After all, the first rule of business is to make sure that you have a market for whatever you're going to produce. If we draw the market out of that, then there's no need for them to be producing that. If instead we go into these areas where people are malnutritioned and teach them how to design food forests or forest gardening, if we teach them about regenerative approaches and get them away from depending on chemical additives and chemical nutrients and how instead to work with nature, those people can be producing their foods just as their ancestors did and sustain themselves into infinity. Just as we can do here in first world countries, as they like to be called, and sustain ourselves. We really can do it. We can live in urban areas and have areas that are designated for gardening and sustain ourselves. We can support the local farmer just outside of the city and get involved in CSAs and support our agriculture system that way, rather than supporting it the way that it is currently being supported. So as much as I want to take a bar of soap and wash my mouth out for the video I did before about GMOs and trying to stay as neutral as I can, my opinion is they serve no purpose. And here on this farm, when something serves no purpose, it gets cold. And after it gets cold, it doesn't come back. That's what we need to do. We need to approach this in a way where the idea of the need for GMOs is cold out of existence, and then it just won't come back. So to take a step back from the GMO side of things and talk about other seeds, I personally have no problem with hybrid plants. I think, however, if you're interested in hybrids, they need to be something that you develop. I think it needs to be something that you are contributing to, where you say, I am interested in this particular crop for this reason. I like this variety for its trait in whatever. I like this variety for its trait in whatever. Now let me grow it on my property and develop a hybrid that's unique to yourself. I personally don't do that. I choose to grow open pollinated seeds with the determination that over the course of many seasons, those varieties will become more well adapted. In other words, if I continue growing Simpson black-seeded lettuce, I know that 4 or 5 generations from now, seed from my own property is going to grow better on my own property than if I buy open pollinated Simpson black-seeded lettuce from another source. They'll still be the same variety, but I believe that mine grown on my property are going to perform better on my property in the future. So that's why I do what I do. But I don't hold any malice against somebody who chooses to do hybrid seeds. I see a benefit in doing hybrids on your own so that you don't have to rely on another company producing them for you. So you don't have to find out that next year that company decided not to carry that variety anymore, and now all of a sudden you have to purchase it from somewhere else. Or if your monetary resources aren't the same next year as they are this year and you're not able to purchase that seed, what will you do? That's why I decide to stay with open pollinated and sort of raise a nose to the idea that you have to have hybrids in certain areas like here in the deep south where it's just too hot and too humid. Folks, if you grow what is good for your area, if you focus on perennials more than annuals, you can grow all the food that you want and not have to rely on all these different extra techniques. Well, there's my 2 cents, and I'm sure there's a whole lot more to be added to it. If you've got a comment that you'd really like to share with everybody and can be civil about it, I'd encourage you to head down to the comments below and do so. Thank you all so much for watching. We really do appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.